3 spine-chilling night shift tales. Unexplained horrors waiting to be discovered alone at work. The air was thick with unease as Sarah pushed her cart through the dimly lit halls of Willow Creek Hospital. Flickering fluorescent lights cast eerie shadows that danced across the peeling walls. It felt as if the darkness itself were alive, watching her every move. She knew the story's patients disappearing without a trace. Nurses returning to work with haunted expressions and vacant stares. Each tale sent shivers down her spine, amplifying her terror as her heart raced. This was her life now, the dreaded night shift. It was her only way to provide for her 2 little ones. But at what cost? As she made her rounds, the usual comforting beeps of medical machinery felt muted, almost stifled by the oppressive silence. Every footstep echoed, punctuated only by the occasional skitter of a mouse. It was too quiet, too still, and Sarah could feel it wrapping around her like a coil, a warning that something was amiss. Just then, a sound broke through the stillness. Childlike laughter, piercing and gleeful, echoed through the supply closet. It sent adrenaline rushing through her veins. Was she losing her mind? She tightened her grip on the cart, attempting to shake off the fear creeping into her thoughts. Desperate for reassurance, she sought Tom, the friendly nurse who had worked these shifts forever. But when she confided in him about the chilling giggle, his expression changed. The easy smile faded, leaving him pale and rigid. He glanced nervously around, as if the walls themselves had ears. "There are things going on here that we can't explain," he muttered, his voice barely a whisper. "I think it's tied to the missing funds, the rumors about Dr. Lawson." His words hung heavy in the air, a secret hanging between them that threatened to crush her. A knot twisted in her stomach, fear clawing at her insides. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Heart pounding in her chest, Sarah fought the urge to flee. The feeling of being watched intensified as they stepped deeper into the labyrinthine any lower levels of the hospital. Locked doors loomed ominously, whispering secrets she feared to uncover. Rounding a corner, she caught sight of something darting in the shadows, a flicker of movement that vanished before she could focus. Panic gripped her as the sick realization dawned on her. The nightmares whispered among the community were alive, and they were watching, waiting. Tom grabbed her arm just as the lights flickered once more before plunging them into darkness. A chilling giggle echoed again. Closer this time, a visceral reminder that the horrors they had only speculated about had teeth and claws. Bile rose in her throat as she realized they were tangled in a web spun from deceit and fear, oblivious to the danger that breathed heavily at their backs. They had crossed a line, and now the hospital wasn't just a workplace. It had morphed into a hunting ground where they might become the next victims of a malevolence that thrived under the cover of night. A bolt of cold fear shot down her spine as she faced the truth. Whatever haunted these halls was far beyond her imagination or her hope to survive. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat, and she felt Thomas' grip tighten on her arm. The oppressive darkness cloaked them, and in its depths, the giggle reverberated again, this time, taunting, almost malicious. "Run," Tom whispered, his voice quivering. They rushed down the corridor, the eerie silence closing in around them, amplifying their racing hearts. Sarah could hear the frantic beat of her pulse, the familiar sound of machinery now twisted in her mind into something sinister. The stark fluorescent lights flickered back to life, momentarily blinding her with brightness, and she squinted against the glare, panic coursing through her. At the end of the corridor, a door stood partially ajar. "In there," Tom urged, pulling her toward it. They stumbled inside, collapsing against the cold, sterile walls of what appeared to be a supply room. The shadows clung to the corners, as if aware of their presence and hungry to consume them. "Why did you bring me here?" Sarah gasped, trying to catch her breath. "What did you mean about Dr. Lawson?" Tom looked frantic, eyes wide. If she s done, if she s, he shook his head, struggling to find the words. The childlike laughter rang out again, louder this time, nearly drowning out his voice. She s been experimenting. The patients, they disappear but they don't die. There are whispers, things that shouldn't exist. Something shifted in the shadows, and Sarah's stomach twisted. She had heard the rumors before. They had been just stories, cautionary tales told over coffee in the break room. But now they felt real, thick as the fog growing around them. I can't believe this, she breathed. She shook her head, hoping to dispel the dread wrapping around her heart. You're just scaring me, this is just stress. Tom's eyes darted toward the door, voice barely a whisper. You don't understand. They don't only take the physical. Sometimes they take something deeper, too. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, plunging them into darkness. The laughter erupted, echoing around them like a cruel melody. Panic surged through Sarah. We need to get out of here. Tom pushed against the door, but it wouldn't budge. It's locked, he yelled, voice tightening with fear. They must know we're in here. The laughter faded into a whisper that rolled across the room, chilling Sarah's blood. Come play with us, it sang, sweet yet twisted, as if 1,000 lost souls wove through the air. A cold draft snaked into the room, wrapping around her like fingers of ice. Sarah felt her skin crawl as if someone was just beyond sight, drawn to their fear. Her mind raced. What were they trapped with? What had Dr. Lawson unleashed? With a sheer burst of will, she slammed her shoulder against the door again. This time, it creaked and gave way, throwing her and Tom into the dimly lit hallway. But there was no escape. Darkness roiled at the end of the corridor, a forbidding void that whispered their names. The childish giggle returned, louder, and now it merged with the sound of small feet shuffling close behind them. Terror ignited in Sarah's chest. They weren't alone. Go, Tom shouted, grabbing her hand. They raced away from the horror pursuing them, the sound of tiny laughter merging with deep growls echoing from the shadows behind. Sarah's mind spiraled. What if Dr. Lawson was behind it all? What if the stories were true? Turn here. Tom pulled her towards a side corridor for what felt like their only chance. They dove into the unknown, but the laughter followed, relentless and hungry. Would they escape the truth of Willow Creek, or would they become part of its nightmare? Just ahead, a door loomed, glowing faintly. But would it be an exit or another trap? The door creaked as they burst through, the soft light revealing a strange room cluttered with dusty medical equipment. Old charts lined the walls, and the smell of antiseptic mixed with the musty air made Sarah gag. She shivered, an unsettling sense of déjà vu creeping over her. It was all too familiar, as if she had entered a realm woven with threads of fear from her past. Where are we? She panted, her breath uneven, eyes darting around for any sign of safety. Tom's grip on her tightened, his face a mask of unyielding fear. It's an old isolation room, he said, voice quaking. They used to keep the problem patients here. I thought it was decommissioned. The oppressive atmosphere grew thicker, the air crackling with a dreadful energy. The laughter echoed behind them, twisting through the air, taunting them as it had before. Sarah turned to see shadows flickering at the edge of her vision, shapes darting just beyond the light, little hands reaching out from the darkness. Tom, we can't stay here, she urged, panic bubbling up. No choice. If we go back, they'll catch us. We need to find something to defend ourselves, he responded, scanning the room. He picked up a rusted syringe, its needle glinting ominously in the pale light. This might be better than nothing, he muttered, gripping it like a weapon. Outside the small, barred window, a faint wail echoed. It sounded human, yet foreign, drenched in despair. Sarah's heart raced as she realized it could be one of the missing patients, their cries blending with the laughter, forming an eerie symphony of madness. Do you think Dr. Lawson's involved? She whispered, horror dawning in her heart. What if she's still don't say it? Tom hissed, eyes wide. We need to focus. Suddenly the room grew darker. A shroud of shadow billowed, swallowing the last remnants of light. The sound of scuttling feet filled the space, and Sarah's pulse quickened. Fear screamed in her head something was coming. "Tom, close the door," she shouted. They rushed to secure the heavy door, their backs against the cold metal while dread filled the air. The laughter morphed into cries, desperate and sorrowful, rising like a tide. The walls felt as if they were closing in, groaning under the weight of unspoken fears. "What do we do?" Sarah's voice wobbled, tears brimming. "What do we fight?" Suddenly, a thud reverberated through the room. The door rattled violently. "They're trying to get in," Tom exclaimed, bracing against the wood. With one swift move, the door jolted open. A surge of icy air whipped through the room like a living entity. From the shadows, pale faces with hollow eyes stared back at them, ghostly remnants of those who had been lost, their features twisted in agony. "Join us," they whispered in chorus, words dripping with malice. The darkness pulsed, warping the shapes into something more, a grotesque amalgamation of childlike innocence and monstrous horror. "They're not just patients, they're remnants," Tom stammered, backing away, his resolve faltering. "Dr. Lawson must ve made them into monsters. This isn't just madness. She's created a nightmare." And just like that, Sarah knew the truth. The very essence of Willow Creek had morphed into a twisted echo of itself. The air thickened, the shadows whispering promises and threats in equal measure. "I want let them take me," she whispered fervently. A warped child's voice echoed through the room. "Come play with us forever." In that moment, as the door gaped open wide, revealing a darkness deeper than any they had known, Sarah and Tom realized that their fate in Willow Creek was more than just survival. It lay intertwined with choices that would haunt them and perhaps consume them. "Run!" Sarah screamed, as the shadows surged forward, swallowing the light. They bolted past the lifeless eyes, but the path ahead twisted and forked into a maze that seemed alive, eager to trap them within its clutches. They had entered a realm where the innocent and the horrors fused. But where could they truly find safety when every direction held its own form of dread? Just ahead, flickering light beckoned a sense of hope or another elaborate trap. Their time was running out, and they had to decide fast: would they ignite their final fate or discover a horrifying secret hidden inside the heart of Willow Creek? The flickering light drew them closer, like moths to a flame, but every instinct screamed to turn back. Sarah hesitated, the shadows behind them a menacing reminder of what they had fled. "What if it's a trap, Tom? Do we have a choice?" He replied, his voice sharp and unyielding. "We need to find a way out. We'll take the chance." Heart pounding, they rushed toward the glow, the air shimmering around them, thick with uncertainty. The closer they got, the more it became clear. It emerged from beneath a heavy steel door marked with faded signs of danger, an old storage room of sorts. As they approached, the door creaked open, as if inviting them to step through, the stench of decay hanging heavy in the air. "Maybe it's safer," Sarah whispered, her intuition battling with dread. They exchanged a nervous look and stepped inside. What lay beyond was a horrifying tableau. Moth-eaten medical files littered the floor like forgotten memories. They could see rusted tables lined with grim tools, each whispering of torture, of experiments that twisted the boundaries between right and wrong. Random snippets of faded patient histories tumbled out, each recounting the tragedy of lives stolen within these walls. A chill crept down Sarah's spine, and unease filled her heart. "We shouldn't be here, Tom," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Just look for anything useful," he urged, his eyes scanning the room, darting from one grim object to another. They moved deeper, drawn by the eerie glow emanating from a single overhead bulb, swinging precariously above them. Shadows danced along the walls around them, flickering as if alive. Suddenly, a grim sound broke the uneasy silence, the metallic scrape of a chair being dragged across the floor. "Did you hear that?" Thomas' eyes widened in terror. The air felt suffocating. They crouched low, heartbeats racing as an oppressive silence fell over them. Then, through a crack in a wall panel, they noticed a series of photographs, faces frozen in time. The captured eyes seemed to gaze into the depths of their souls, haunting and familiar. One face struck a visceral chord in Sarah's memory. It was the girl from her nightmares. The one who always whispered her name. Tom's voice trembled as he pointed. Look, her heart dropped. There she was. The girl she had seen countless times in her dreams, only these dreams had morphed into a spiraling, sick imitation of the truth. The girl smiled eerily, the caption below her photo reading, Patient 0, subject of experimentation. What does this mean? Sarah stammered, her mind racing. The past she had fought to forget was crashing down around her. Just then, the light above burst, plunging them into darkness. Panic surged. They were enveloped by night, the memories swirling around them like smoke. Run! Tom yelled, grabbing her hand. They stumbled toward the door, the specters echoing in their minds, their whispers gut-wrenchingly familiar. Then came the laughter, the same twisted sound from before. It morphed into a chilling melody that grew louder, wrapping around them like a taut noose. The walls seemed to close in, shadows elongating, twisting into grotesque figures, all reaching for them. We have to break through, Sarah shouted, numb with terror. Tom pushed against the door, but it wouldn't budge. The mocking voices started to chant. Stay with us, come play forever. Each repetition sent fresh chills through their core, blending horror with despair. Sarah's grip on Tom's hand tightened. Tom, what are we going to do? He turned to her, eyes filled with a mix of fear and fierce determination. We fight. We find a way. Just as the door finally gave way, expelling them into a corridor drenched in an unsettling crimson light, they paused, disoriented. Ahead of them stood a figure, shrouded in shadow, its eyes glinting unnaturally in the dim light. Welcome back, it hissed, voice dripping with familiarity. And Sarah froze, dread and recognition washing over her as the shadows around them closed in again. Who was this figure, and what awaited them next in the darkness? The figure lurked just beyond the crimson glow, its shape shifting in the darkness. Tom's grip on Sarah's hand tightened, pulling her back with a frantic urgency. What do we do? He whispered, barely audible over the mounting cacophony of whispers that danced around them. The air felt electric, charged with impending dread. Step back, Sarah said, her voice stealing. She felt fingers of ice creeping down her spine. We have to figure out who or what it is. The figure stepped into the light, its features twisted and grotesque. She recognized the familiar face from the faded photograph, sickly pale, eyes wide with a haunting glow. The girl from her nightmares. Sarah, it cooed, voice sweet yet laced with malice. You came back. We've been waiting. A wave of nausea hit her, churning her stomach. No, this can't be happening. The world around her began to spin, the laughter echoing in her mind once more. It was mocking, taunting. Everywhere she turned, shadows loomed, seeking her out like predators on the hunt. Sarah. Tom's urgent voice snapped her focus back. Focus, we need to keep moving. But the girl's voice crawled into her thoughts. Stay with us, she could feel the pull, the darkness promising solace amid her fear. Tom noticed her hesitation, his eyes flaring with desperation. Come on, he shouted, yanking her toward the stairway at the end of the corridor, drenched in that unsettling crimson light. They had to escape. They had to escape that thing. Try the stairs, Sarah breathed, a flicker of hope igniting against the looming dread. They dashed forward, the weight of the air pressing down on them, thick as smoke and tainted by forgotten horrors. Racing up the stairs, each step echoed with the creaking of wood beneath their feet. Behind them, the laughter grew. It twisted and turned, morphing into a melody straight from the depths of nightmares. You can't leave, not until you join us forever. Tom pushed harder, urgency coursing through his veins. As they reached the top, a door loomed, its paint peeling and words barely legible. Exit. It felt false, like a cruel joke designed to lure them into a false sense of safety. Here. Tom hurriedly pulled on the handle, stuck for a moment, refusing to budge. The laughter grew louder, more insistent. Sarah felt fingers dance against her skin, ice cold and desperate. Tom. Her voice ripped through the air, fear spilling over. The walls trembled. Shadows writhed with malice, creeping closer. They had to act now. With one final lurch, Tom forced the door open, and they tumbled through into a wide-open space drenched in blinding light. The cacophony of laughter faded, replaced by an eerie stillness that left more questions echoing in their minds than answers. They found themselves in a sterile room, fluorescent lights humming harshly above. Medical equipment lined the walls, eerily pristine. But it wasn't the tools of healing that caught Sarah's attention. It was the glass panels reflecting the images behind them. Panic resided in the corners of her mind as she turned. Behind those panels, shadows flitted, blurred movements of figures she refused to name. Faces, some familiar, some strangers, all contorted in expressions of horror captured in time. "Where are we?" she whispered, dread pooling in her stomach as her brain struggled to process what lay before her. Was this another trap? "That door, it can't just end here," Tom insisted, eyes darting. He scanned the room, searching for an escape that didn't exist. Sarah, too, felt the walls closing in around them, the glass panels offering both a view and a prison. And then she heard it again, that haunting laugh reverberating from beyond the glass. "You can't escape, not now, Tom. We need to get out. Look." He pointed to one of the panels. A figure pressed against the glass. It was her. Except this, Sarah wore a grim, knowing smile, one that echoed the girl from her nightmares. "Come join us," the smiling Sarah mouthed, her eyes dark and deep, an abyss staring back. Heart racing, Sarah felt nausea wash over her. "No, this isn't real. This can't be happening." But they were trapped here. The shadows at the edges of her vision began to solidify into something monstrous. It culminated in the sudden realization. The door wasn't the only exit. The glass itself was a portal of sorts, an invitation to join the shadows. "Tom, we can't," 1,000 voices joined in chorus, and the glass panels shattered, unleashing a torrent of darkness that flooded the room. As Sarah and Tom were engulfed, the shadows crept closer, each whisper calling, beckoning them into the depths. "Your turn." Sarah, what choice did they have now? What lay waiting in that abyss? In the face of a truth they were about to confront? A truth that might not only cost them their lives but also their very souls. The shadows wrapped around Sarah and Tom like suffocating silk, pulling them into a swirling void of whispers and screams. Time stretched and snapped, seconds stretching into an eternity as they fell into darkness. An icy void swallowed them, but it was no mere absence of light. It was filled with memories, images of terror, flickering like old film clips. "Hold on," Tom shouted, reaching out for Sarah's hand, but his voice was swallowed by the cacophony. She felt his grip slip, panic clawing at her chest. The darkness pressed in from all sides, and with a flash, they were suddenly unmoored, shifted into another space entirely. They landed hard on a cold, tiled floor that bit at their skin. Blinking against the sterile overhead lights, they found themselves in a dimly lit hallway. The walls bore peeling vinyl wallpaper that seemed to shift as they stared. The air felt thick, laced with the stench of desperation and decay. "Where are we?" Sarah asked, voice trembling as she pushed back strands of damp hair. She turned in circles, the hallway yawning endlessly in both directions, dark thresholds to unknown horrors. We have to keep moving," Tom said, his tone grave. The shadows from the shattered panels flickered in her peripheral vision, taunting, whispering her name. Together, they ventured forward, each step echoing with an unsettling finality. They passed doors marked with numbers, some ajar, revealing glimpses into rooms that seemed frozen in moments of terror. One door swung wide, revealing a stark examination room. The stark steel table glistened under red lights, that same hue staining the walls. "Look," Sarah said, pointing, her heartbeat thunderous. The room was populated, but not with the living. Figures lay stretched out, faded memories trapped in the cold grip of the past. Faces she recognized from the glass panels twisted, wailing, begging for release. "Keep moving," Tom urged, jerking her away before she could get lost in the sights. They hurried past rooms echoing with the lamentations of the trapped. But deeper still, the whispers grew into shouts. "Join us! reverberated through the air, clawing at their sanity. "You don't belong here, Sarah." Her heart raced with a jarring rhythm. Despair felt tangible, wrapping around her throat. Why are they calling my name?" "I don't know," Tom snapped, urgency pushing him forward. "But we have to find an exit. Now." The walls seemed to shudder, as if reacting to her fear. Behind them, echoes of footsteps began to follow, a relentless pursuit. Each footfall was a heartbeat, drumming a sinister rhythm. As they sprinted down the hallway, shadows flickered in the edges of their vision, figures shifting in and out of reality, always just out of reach. Sarah felt her own breath catch. The weight of their presence pressed heavily on her. "Turn," Tom shouted. They darted through an open doorway, tumbling into a small office, papers littering the floor, chairs overturned as if a struggle had just taken place. "Tom, what if we can't focus?" he interrupted, eyes wide with determination. "There has to be a way out of here." But as they searched through the disarray, the ripped papers whispered secrets that made Sarah's skin crawl. A bright red sticky note caught her eye. "They take you too." It felt like a warning, a haunting truth wrapped in insidious promises. Suddenly, the office door burst open, slamming against the wall. A figure loomed in the doorway, eyes glowing with an unnatural light, its form indistinct and menacing. Cold dread coursed through her veins. It was the girl from her nightmares, body contorting as if caught between realms. "Sarah," it called sweetly, voice slithering into her mind. "Why fight? Join us, forever run." Tom shouted, yanking Sarah backward. They barreled past the girl, her laughter echoing maliciously behind them, feeding on their fear. Panic surged through Sarah. They were trapped. Another door appeared at the end of the corridor, flickering light seeping beneath it. It was their only chance. Without hesitation, Tom dashed towards it, slamming his shoulder against the door, flinging it wide. What lay beyond was draped in shadows, but within that dark space glimmered a familiar crimson glow. An unsettling warmth washed over Sarah. Is that she breathed, feeling time warp once more. Before they could process what they might find, the door slammed shut behind them with a deafening crack. The otherworldly laughter echoed all around, wrapping them in a cacophony of dread. This wasn't the end. It was merely the beginning. "Tom, what if this is a trap?" she gasped, clutching at him desperately. But the crimson glow pulsed, drawing her closer, deeper into the unknown. What awaited them now? What nightmare loomed behind the veil of shadows and laughter? As Sarah stepped forward, the room shifted, the glow flickering. Each moment felt like a countdown. They may have found an escape or perhaps a gateway into something much darker. "Sarah," the voices whispered. "You're home now." What plans awaited inside the heart of darkness? And what price would they pay to uncover the truth lurking beyond the crimson light? With the door banging shut, the air in the room thickened, wrapping around Sarah and Tom like a chain. The crimson glow pressed in around them, hot and almost suffocating, pulsed, rhythmically beating like a trapped heart. Every fiber of Sarah's being pulled her towards it, but doubt clawed at her mind. "Stay close." Tom's voice shattered her trance. The room seemed to pulse with anticipation, shadows coalescing in corners, waiting for an opportune moment to strike. They hesitated at the entrance, glancing back at the door. But no figures rushed in, no sound of the girl's laughter followed them. The silence was unnaturally deep, filling the void around them, thick with tension. "What if this glow is something we should avoid?" Tom murmured, eyes scanning the room, searching for other exits. But the walls seemed to close in around them, the flickering light anchoring their feet to the spot. "Maybe it's the only way," Sarah replied, her voice barely a whisper. "What if it leads us out of here?" She took a hesitant step towards the glow, as if pulled by an unseen force. Tom followed, although hesitantly. The glimmer intensified, illuminating the contours of the room. It was a small space filled with broken furniture, papers strewn everywhere, and an extravagant mirror mounted against one wall. "Look at this," Sarah breathed. The mirror shimmered, reflecting not just their terrified faces, but also waves of crimson energy that seemed to pulse from within. "Don't touch it," Tom warned, stepping back. Every instinct screamed caution. But it was too late. The mirror seemed to call to Sarah, drowning out Tom's voice. She stepped closer, mesmerized. As she reached her hand toward the glass, a ripple spread across its surface, distorting her reflection in a grotesque display. "Sarah!" Tom shouted, but it was as if her ears were filled with static. "Join us," came the echo of countless voices, swirling around her, rising like dark smoke. The reflection shifted. She saw vague hints of identities, faces twisting into scream-like expressions. "Don't! It's a trap!" Tom yelled, panic threading his tone as he grabbed her arm, pulling her back. But the glow flared dramatically, blocking their path. Suddenly, the warmth of the crimson light turned viciously cold, a frigid wave sweeping through the room. Sarah shivered violently, the whispers intensifying, distorting into cries of pain. "Help us, Sarah. We need you." They droned, voices layered, each note a thread in a sickening harmony. Tom, still clutching Sarah, stumbled backward. We have to go." But the oppressive heaviness of the room thickened as they retreated toward the far wall. It felt like the space itself was closing in, walls narrowing, compressing their very essence. "Look," Tom pointed wildly. A small window barely visible through the chaotic shadow, the glass gleaming. It radiated a faint hope of escape. Sarah felt the whispers turn chaotic, fighting for her attention. Their urgent cries morphed into desperate howls. "You can't leave us. You belong with us. Now!" Tom shouted. He dashed toward the window, desperate eyes meeting hers. Just as they made a move, the floor beneath them bucked violently, arching like a beast ready to devour them whole. From the mirror came tendrils of darkness, stretching impossibly, reaching for Sarah and Tom, wrapping around their legs, pulling them back. "Sarah!" Tom's shout was drowned in the chorus of cries. "Help!" Sarah cried out, a shiver coursing down her spine as the darkness flooded into the room. Creeping forward, hungry and relentless, she dug her fingers into the floor, trying to cling to the tile, but the shadows surged with ferocity, dragging her backward, away from Tom, away from the last hopes of escape. "No!" Tom lunged forward, grabbing her wrist. The pull of the shadows was stronger than anything she had ever felt. "Together," Tom shouted, eyes blazing with determination. "We can fight it." With one last effort, they both hurled themselves toward the window, their hearts racing as they felt the shadows clawing at them. As they neared the glass, it shimmered darkly, reflecting their terror. The whispers crescendoed into a howl as the tendrils of darkness enveloped them completely. And then they hurtled through the glass. What lay beyond was a vast and dark expanse, like the abyss staring back at them. They fell, spiraling through dimensions, the howls fading into an eerie silence. Then they landed again, gasping, in yet another room swallowed by shadows. "Where are we now?" Sarah asked, dread pooling in her stomach as the familiar dark whispers returned, echoing ever closer. "Sarah," they called. Sarah, what kind of new horror awaited them here? And would they once again be tempted to join the ranks of the lost? The darkness settled like a thick fog, suffocating and heavy. Sarah and Tom stumbled back to their feet, breathless and disoriented. The whispers wrapped around them, curling like smoke from unseen fires. Each pulse of sound felt deliberate, each name a haunting reminder. "Sarah," the whispers coiled tighter, their chorus a seductive invitation. The walls of the new room were indistinct, shadows shifting and molding in erratic patterns that seemed to breathe alongside them. "Don't listen to them." Tom's voice was sharp, cutting through the encroaching gloom. His eyes darted around, scanning for exits or signs of life. But this place felt endless, a labyrinth crafted from unyielding nightmares. They stood together, hearts hammering against the cage of their ribs. Shadows danced at the periphery of their vision, teasing threats that faded into the void just as quickly. "We need to find a way out," Sarah said, the urgency in her voice palpable. Suddenly, the room flickered, the shadows retreating momentarily, revealing a door at the far end, splintered and ominous. Its paint was peeling, revealing dark wood beneath, as if it bled from centuries of torment. "Do you think it's safe?" Tom asked, his voice a mixture of hope and dread. "Safe? I don't think we have a choice," Sarah replied grimly, taking a step toward it. With each movement, the whispers swirled, growing louder, wrapping around them like barbed wire. "Stay with us, Sarah," they chanted, faster now, merging into chaotic dissonance. "No," she shouted back, voice cracking with desperation, as she pushed onward. Each step felt like a betrayal to the voices reaching out for her, pleading like forgotten ghosts. Tom reached her side, determination etched on his face. "We go together," he affirmed, grasping her hand tightly. As they neared the door, Tom hesitated, keying into the pulsing sound thrumming chill through the air. What if we become one of them? Then we'll fight it," Sarah declared. They reached the door. Sarah's hand curled around the rusted knob, hesitation bubbling within her. With a deep breath, she turned. The door creaked open, its hinges groaning like warnings from the depths of hell. Darkness spilled through, a mass of unformed dread, almost tangible. They crossed the threshold together, stepping into a room lined with mirrors, each reflecting monstrous visions that twisted her form in degenerate contortions. The whispers merged, each reflection offering fuzzy images of them free and laughing, but then shifting to horrific forms. Mouths gaping in cries, she recognized screams of those once lost. Sarah stared, transfixed by one mirror that seemed to draw her closer. In the glass, she saw herself older, trapped, a specter wreathed in shadows, lost forever in that horrific dimension. No, she gasped, yanking her gaze away. "They're trying to drag us in." But the tendrils of darkness were relentless. They lashed out, snaking around Thomas' ankles, drawing him toward one of the mirrors. "Tom!" Panic coursed through her. She grasped his hand, pulling with all her strength. The whispers crescendoed, baring their fangs, rushing towards them. Together, Tom's grip tightened as they fought against the tide of shadows. Just as the darkness was about to consume them, a blinding light erupted behind them. It surged through the mirrors, bright and searing, forcing the shadows to hiss and recoil. "Run!" Tom shouted, and with that, they darted back, away from the beckoning mirrors, colliding into an intense radiance that swallowed every shivering whisper. They tumbled through another threshold, landing in yet another shadowy dimension. Before they could collect themselves, the air chilled, frosty breath creeping across their skin. A low growl echoed around them. Figures emerged from the shadows, looming forms with hollow eyes and distorted faces. "Welcome back," the whisper cut the silence, uncertain and chilling. As Sarah and Tom backed away, dread seeped into their bones, the shadows closing in once more. Would they find a way to escape once more, or were they finally cornered? In this unending nightmare, a final whisper awaited them. "You can't escape us, we are always here." The figures advanced, slow and deliberate, their hollow eyes locking onto Tom and Sarah. The growl rumbled through the air, a low echo that resonated in their chests. Panic gripped Sarah as she strained to make out the faces, each twisted and mocking in its expression. "Run!" She cried again, but her voice faltered under the weight of realization. They were surrounded. The shadows loomed, massive and hungry, devouring the last remnants of light. Tom yanked her hand, dragging her backward, but the ground beneath them felt unstable like shifting sand. "We have to find a way out, now." As they stumbled across the uneven terrain, it felt like they were wading through molasses. Every movement was heavy, drenched in fear. The whispers returned, swirling around them, turning the chill in the air into blades that cut deep. "Stay with us forever, no. We won T." Tom shouted defiantly, but the words felt weak in the oppressive atmosphere. They needed a plan, something to hold on to, but the shadows snaked closer, constricting around them like a serpent. Panic surged. "Sarah." Tom's grip tightened as he turned to her, terror etched across his face. "We need to split up, confuse them, Are you crazy? She gasped. They'll catch you. Trust me. I'll find another way. You have to just go. His eyes darted around, spotting a possible narrow opening in the shadowy wall where the figures shifted. I'll be right behind you. The whispering intensified, filling her mind with images of despair as if it wanted to paralyze her into submission. No, she battled against it. I want to leave you, Sarah. His voice rose. Please, just go. With a last look at Tom, her heart shattering, Sarah dashed toward the opening. But it twisted beyond reach, the shadows bending to block her path. She collided against an invisible wall. Sarah, Tom shouted, but even his voice was dimming, fading away, swallowed by the encroaching dread. The shadows surged forward, coiling around Thomas' legs, dragging him into their dark embrace. His anguished cries echoing as the light surrounding him flickered and sputtered. Tom! She screamed. With sheer desperation, Sarah lunged toward him, but her movements were caught in the freezing grip of fear. As Tom disappeared, a new whisper blossomed, smoother, more coaxing. You could join him. Sarah, forever you could be free from this pain. No, I want tea. She squeezed her eyes shut, forcing the voices to dim. She remembered the blinding light and mustered her courage, pushing against the invisible barrier with all she had. The shadows wavered under her will. Stay with us, it hissed, the room vibrating with malice. The figures inched closer, their distorted features twisted into malicious grins. The opening began to widen, a sliver of light slicing through the void. Just step forward, embrace the darkness. No, I will not let you take me, she shouted, channeling all her fury. With one last effort, she surged forward, bursting through the barrier. A blinding light washed over her, presenting a fleeting glimpse of Tom reaching out, his eyes wide and terrified. Then everything snapped back into darkness again. Sarah landed hard on a cold floor, panting, heart racing. She looked around. This room was different. Instead of shadows, there were walls lined with fluorescent lights flickering ominously above her. A distant humming filled the air, mechanical and eerie. It felt strangely familiar, like the sterile halls of a hospital. Tom? She called, her voice echoing. No answer. Just the low buzzing persisted, growing louder. In the corner of the room, she spotted a desk. Papers scattered, illuminated by the harsh light, revealing a series of faded photographs. Sarah stepped closer, squinting to see the faces within the images. They were all too familiar, faces of the lost, trapped forever in the dark. A hollow echo of her scream filled the silence, reverberating off the walls. The buzzing intensified, sounding more like a warning now. And then, she heard it, a low growl building, like the voice of the very shadows they had fled. Sarah, welcome home, her heart sank. The nightmare was far from over. What other horrors awaited her in this desolate place? Would she find Tom again? Or was he lost between shadows and whispers, consumed forever? The familiar growl echoed again, vibrating deep in Sarah's chest. Sarah, welcome home, it sent icy fingers crawling down her spine. The room pulsed with a demanding presence, as if the walls themselves held her tied to this hell. She took a shaky step back, breath hitching in her throat. Memories flashed, faces distorted with fear, moments of horror she could hardly bear. The shadowy figures were relentless, whispering her name like a mantra. Tom! She called again, desperation slicing through her voice. The silence that followed was oppressive, a void where his laughter used to be. Her fingers trembled as they brushed against the scattered papers on the desk. The faces, marked by pain and sorrow, stared back at her, frozen in a torment that felt all too real. But amid the chaos, something caught her eye, a name, scribbled in a hasty scrawl atop a faded file. It read, Dr. Lawson's final experiment. The corners of her heart twisted in a painful recognition. Drain the fear, don't lose yourself now. Spurred by a flicker of courage, she gathered the scattered papers. Each one revealed the truth. The documents chronicled the experiments, horrors that Dr. Lawson had attempted to erase from memory. Sarah's heart raced. Was this her way forward? A chance to find Tom and uncover the truth that had twisted their fates? She snatched a few vital papers and turned back toward the ominous humming, pushing through the unease that threatened to swallow her whole. Moving toward the source, she felt as if the walls whispered secrets only she could hear. The buzzing intensified, weaving through shadows and illuminating unexpected paths. Her mind raced, remembering the girl from her nightmares, the one who beckoned them inside. Drawn by the siren's call, she had to find a way to counter that power. Suddenly, the humming crescendoed and transformed into a twisted laughter that ricocheted off the tiled walls. The air grew thick with energy. Every heartbeat echoed her dread. They had kept her safe from the unseen for too long, but now the shadows loomed. "The light will save you," it said, the blend of voices sending shivers through her. "Embrace it, Sarah, no," she yelled defiantly, feeling the last strands of shadows close in. Seething with determination, she opened the papers to glimpse the plans outlined, and there it was, a way to thwart their power. Stumbling forward, she pushed deeper into the light, each step rising with new clarity and resolve, heart pounding fiercely. Desperation and hope merged as she spurred herself on. "Tom, I'm coming," she whispered fiercely, her voice steadying with each deep breath. The light engulfed her. Then the ground shook. Her perspective shifted, and suddenly, she stood before a thick door. Its wood appeared weathered and decayed, tainted by the darkness that wrapped around it. But, holding on to the files, she felt suffused with strength. Without hesitation, Sarah turned the handle, pushing it wide. It swung open, revealing an ethereal glow beyond the threshold. She saw figures trapped within, memories suspended in anguish, her friends, former co-workers, and shadows of those lost forever to Dr. Lawson's madness. "Help us," they whispered, reaching out with pale hands, desperate and hollow. "Tom," she cried out, forcing herself through that door. The glow brightened, and for a moment, all the shadows receded. She felt a surge of power coursing through her. "Stay away," she shouted, brandishing the documents as if they were a sword. "I won't let you take me." The walls trembled in defiance, the lights flickering violently, shadows attempting to claw their way back. She pushed further, determined to escape the nightmare of stomach-churning whispers and laughter that threatened to pull her into the abyss. "Help us!" The voices grew louder, merging into an agonizing cry. "Join us!" "No!" She took a step forward, clutching the documents, resolute. "I am not yours to claim." As she shouted, the power in her voice fractured the shadows, sending a wave of brilliant light spiraling throughout the room. The blackness hissed and recoiled, shadows, evaporating like a memory fading with dawn. With a final roar, she summoned her courage and made towards the figures trapped in the light. "Tom, I'll find you," she screamed, stepping into the blinding light, each second heavy as she felt the darkness retreat. And then there he was. Tom stood among the trapped souls, eyes wide with a mix of fear and relief. "Sarah." Relief washed over his face as he rushed toward her. "I thought I lost you." "They won't take us," Sarah declared, wiping away tears. "We'll break this cycle. We have to help them in unison." They held out the documents, unleashing the knowledge that could free the trapped souls. The energy crackled, illuminating the space around them, healing the chaos wrought by Dr. Lawson's hands. As the darkness waned, a radiant glow enveloped them, echoing with memories of their freedom, a final embrace. And just like that, the shadows dissolved into a gentle mist, allowing Tom and Sarah to hold hands and emerge as true survivors from the terror that had ensnared them. Standing tall and resolute, as the walls collapsed around them, they felt the warmth of the sun on their skin, flooding back into their lives as they stepped into a new dawn. "Together, we can conquer any darkness," Tom said, squeezing her hand tightly. They walked forward, buoyed by a newfound hope, leaving the horrors of Willow Creek Hospital behind. But as they stepped into the light, the echo of those lost echoed in their hearts, promising they would always remember and protect those still trapped under the weight of shadows. This wasn't just their victory. It was a promise, one they vowed to keep. And as they ventured into the world above, They knew it was their purpose now to make sure nobody else would face the shadows alone. Don't wait another moment. You need to subscribe now to catch all the spine-chilling stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the nightmares alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Sarah and Thomas' wild journey. What do you think really happened in those cursed halls? And for the love of all things terrifying, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this horrific conclusion. Don't hesitate. This is the moment to show your support.